Hi, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. This is Ursie, and I'm joined today again by our dear friend Janet Hickox. She is with living-astrology.com. And Janet's a good friend, and I got to tell you, she knows how to weave so many different esoteric wisdoms together, and she has created her very own brand called AstroDesign. And she's here to share with us a little bit about what is AstroDesign. So welcome, Janet.
Thank you so much, Ursula. It's always great to be with you. And of course, I love talking about what I love, which is astrology and human design, galactic astrology, all kinds of things. But today I think we're focusing on astro design and human design.
Great. And don't forget, there's that gene keys that comes in as well. And so what I liked, when I think about you, what you're up to and what you're weaving, I think of it as, here we have astrology that looks at the planets, and then we have galactic, which brings in the stars. And then we have something called human design, which brings in a body graph and how it fits within the kind of body you have. And then the gene keys goes into our genetic coding. And the more we find out about all these stories, we end up back in the cosmos. So you're astro design.
When you said that, what I saw as a picture in my mind was nesting dolls.
Yes.
You know, the like everything nests within the other, and yet they stand alone. They can stand separately, but when you start to bring them all together, we start to see a really much more rounded perspective of you as a human being, what you're here to do, what your skills are, what your gifts are, all of that. And we start to put together a more coherent picture of who you are. And I just love that. I love to see the light bulbs come on in people's faces when I'm talking to them about their human design or their astrology or combining it all together for them.
So let me ask you before we get going on astro design, you have the path of the seeker, the wisdom sharer. Why wasn't astrology enough? Why wasn't gene keys enough? Did those Russian dolls, first of all, there's probably more dolls coming, right?
The first doll was numerology, right?
Oh,
That happened when I was like 18 years old. I was walking through a bookstore in California, and these books caught my eye. They were by Matthew Goodwin. It was like a numerology workbook set kind of thing. And I was just so amazed by it, right? I was doing it with all my friends, with my family. And then before long, astrology started to take over. Um, it's like I follow breadcrumbs, right? Like I'm a little Gretel or Hansel, walking through the forest, picking up breadcrumbs. And as these new systems or as new facets of a system show up for me, then I take it in and it becomes a part of my repertoire, if you will. And I use those parts in talking with my clients. And if it happens to be a whole new system, like happened with human design and then happened with gene keys, well, now I have to be able to coordinate and bring all those things together for my own self. But also that then gives me the opening to be able to do that for other people. So it's kind of my seeking about me that then leads me to be able to help others in their seeking about them.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I love this whole idea of astro design, especially as it relates to the Aquarian age. So we've come from the Piscean era of 2,000 years, and this shift of ages requires a new language, a new way of seeing ourselves, our identity. And so we are way more than we perhaps imagine. And so listening to you, learning from you, tracking your wisdom for the last several years, I just feel like, wow, the dashboard just got so much bigger. So I like the Russian doll analogy, and there's also this toroidal, like
Yeah.
it comes back unto itself, but it's never the same. It's always evolving. So it's kind of an evolutionary living astrology, living human astro design.
AstroDesign. Well, and you know where that really came about, Ursula, is that I started, well, 5 years ago, I started writing with my friend Tam for her energy almanac. And as I was writing for each month, and specifically astrology, because her publication is just about astrology, I kept thinking, wow, there needs to be more to this story,
Mhm.
right? So it was a planet that's at a certain degree, or a planet moving into a certain sign. And yes, okay, we know what the sign is, or we know what the planet means, and we can get some clues, but I immediately wanted more. I wanted to go into what is the human design of the degree that this is happening in. How does that astrology of Leo, let's say, since we're in Leo season, equate to what is happening in human design? And it's extraordinary when you start to look at that in a way that brings it together. So then, fast forward a few years, I decide that I need to start writing my own idea of the energy almanac, but calling it astro design, where I can weave the astrology in with the human design and the gene keys, because it's all sort of there within it. And so I started writing astro design for each month. And of course, last year got interrupted and I didn't get to finish that in the way that I wanted to. So now I'm completing that month by month and preparing to write the one for 2023.
Wow. I love this journey you've been on and this commitment to really following the energy signatures, right? There's more that, and it's not about, well, you know, it's like almost like Lucille Ball with the pies. It's like, okay, sometimes it just comes in so fast, but you found a
Yes.
way to frame it though with astro design. So here's the umbrella, living astrology with Janet, astro design. And if you don't mind, I'd love to share your beautiful website, because on your website, you offer so much for free. And so we'd like to
Yes.
talk about the free stuff first. You can get
Okay.
your free human design chart. Janet does now monthly free ebooks to talk about the weather from the
Yes.
perspective of human design, but there's so much more. So let's see if I can get my little screen share here. Here you are. And I'm just going to go to the top, living-astrology.com. And then you'll get to Living Astrology with Janet. But look it up here. You've got astrology, or a free natal astrology chart. And then if you'd like readings, you've got that, or you can get a report. But here's the human design, because I think many listening may not understand, what are we talking about when we say human design? Well, if you go to Janet's website here and plug in your information, you can get a free human design chart. So and then here's
The
Janet.
free human design chart, but also a report that comes along with it. It's about a 9-10 page chart. I mean, report that kind of gives you some quick rundown information on what is it that you're seeing in this chart, so that you're not just looking at this thing and going, oh yeah, great. Well, what is that? The report helps to get you an understanding of who you are through that system called human design.
I love it. It's like you get a gift of not only seeing your chart, but you get a little bit of a roadmap. And if you want more, Janet's available. Now, what I like here, soul discovery experience, since we're on your website,
Okay.
this relatively new, right? This is the aspect of soul alignment and galactic astrology, right? So,
Yeah. And it's all based on human design. So the very first aspect before you can really get into a soul alignment and realignment and the galactic astrology is human design. It's the gateway. And I may even change that to astro design, so that going into some of the deeper work, you already have a working idea of who you are at soul level, and how it is that you're designed to make decisions in this life, to be in relationship in this life, and what are your gifts and your talents, and what are maybe the weaknesses or the Achilles heels that we all have, that you need to watch out for. And then from there, in this soul discovery experience, we move into soul alignment and realignment. Now we're going to look at, from the perspective of the Akashic records and your soul record,
Mhm.
um, what choices have you made at soul level that have pulled you out of the alignment with your true authentic self? And that has been an extraordinary journey for me to be able to help people with that. And then once we get through the soul realignment, then we can move into the galactic nature of who you are. Right. So they build sort of like building blocks, you know. Have you ever played Jenga?
Or the
Right.
dolls, back to your doll
Yeah, or
motif.
the dolls work too. They build one upon the other
Mhm.
so that by the time we're done with the galactic astrology, you really have a very complete picture of who you are, and hopefully really get the idea of how intrinsically valuable and worthy, how special you are in the grand scheme of things.
I think in the great pause for the last 2.5 years, as we've been asked to go inside, literally stay inside, this idea of clarity, clarity, clarity. Why am I here? What's my purpose and mission? And so, Janet, you help through all these various esoteric methodologies or
Mhm.
systems to help answer some of those questions for greater clarity. And it feels so full service. I mean, you can keep it very much, astrology, or we'll talk about human design in a moment, and gene keys, and now soul alignment. Well, one day I'd love to have you come back to the playground. And if you want to do a little mini soul alignment for me, that would be fun to share so people understand what are you talking about and what would it feel like. So
Hey,
I'll leave that as
I,
an invite.
okay.
We'll learn together.
Right. I mean, it's all this work, everything that I've ever done sort of seamlessly comes together. And the beauty of doing this is that it's not that there's just one recipe for every client or for every person. I've even been in a reading and gone back to numerology for someone to try to get to some truth that maybe is elusive in astrology or in human design or in gene keys or in
Yeah.
any of the other things. So I think the idea of having all of these different tools is that no one tool works for every one person. So I get depth and I get breadth with the way that I do the work that I do.
Well, and I've seen you in action too. It's almost like making a soup. It's like a little bit of this, a little bit of this, but you're channeling. You're channeling, and somehow that soup at the very end is specific towards the individual that you're reading for. I mean, again, I've watched you. It is that you've got the Gemini awareness, and okay, here's all the data and research and information, and you've got the
Hmm.
Virgo to help categorize it. But then this beautiful Andromedan energy comes through you, and look, you've got the purple on, and it comes through you, and it's just like bam. You don't know where it comes from, but it's like, okay, I'll take it. And if the person you're reading for, if they're open to it, that sometimes is like the magical juice.
Yeah, and in fact, you're right. I absolutely don't even know when it's happening. It just comes. So it's not like I channel like I'm gone away somewhere. It's just and by the way, this is in my human design, right? That I open to the flow of super consciousness, which means that there's just this flow. I mean, if you can imagine that, there's always this information that's flowing through the energy around us. And somehow I just tap into what it is I need to know about you or the situation that you're in. And of course, I have the tools that help me put that in perspective for you. But it's been an interesting journey because a lot of times I struggled with trusting myself. I struggled with trusting that information coming in is truth. And I finally have gotten over that. It just has to come in. And if it's not true, you'll tell me, right? That doesn't sound like me.
Yeah, like
That,
you're the
that's
mailman. Like the mailman just delivers the mail. Okay, here's your package.
yeah, here's your
I can't
package.
hold how you receive the package, but here it is. And sign, please.
Right. Yeah, it's not my job to make you get it in the way that I'm trying to
Right,
deliver it,
right. And
but
there's
I
a
can
timing.
help you focus it in, right? I can fine tune it for you, but you have to be open and willing to receive it. There's
Wow.
that too. Yeah.
Well, good time to segue then. Let me show folks. So here's Janet's website, but I want to show you what a human design chart looks like. And guess what? This is yours truly right here. Okay.
That looks so familiar.
Yep, you've looked at my chart. In fact, I'm just going to zoom. Well, no, I think this is probably good. All right.
Okay.
So this is what we call a body graph. This information, I just want to, if you're new to human design, I don't want to scare you away because there's a lot of information. But what Janet
Mhm.
just said, that when she finally found that she has access to, the super consciousness, and she found the proof in human design, you know, wouldn't that be such a gift for any person, anyone, especially young people, where clarity is key as they start developing, where am I going to go in life? I don't know, my heart is always for the young people. It's like, okay, but if you can see it, and proof positive is how to play this game and you test it for accuracy. Well, here's my human design chart, and now I'm on a different site called jovianarchive.com. This is like the base of, well, I'll just tell this funny little story. I think it was in the 1970s where a guy named Ra Uru, he changed his name, he received this download of human design. And it takes in all these various modalities of not just astrology, but he brings in numerology, the I Ching, so much. But you eventually get this body chart. Now, when I first saw my body graph for the first time, I saw just how white this was. And I had been doing Kundalini yoga, Janet, and I just thought, okay, there's the shaft of white light that I have to open myself to and just say, okay, allowing this to come through. But then with Janet's good help, I learned what these colored segments were. But I will just say very gently, if you're interested in human design, it's another way to actually see yourself, to know your energy signatures, and where astrology gives you the script and the players, and it tells you a little bit of you. And Janet, you're right. The human design chart just goes deeper. So I'm just going to
Yeah.
count. Yep. Go ahead,
I,
Jen.
I think it's that, human design and along with the gene keys helps us access who we are at our DNA level. And, lots of people that I've talked to over time have this idea in their mind that their DNA is set in stone, that we're somehow a victim of our DNA. So if, DNA has a gene that codes for some kind of disease, that you're, by default going to get that disease, or that if you're coded for certain kinds of temperament that you're doomed to have that temperament, and that is so not true. Right? So not true. Your DNA is always responsive to what it is that you're focusing on in your life. And your DNA is always responsive to your evolution, how you're growing and expanding your horizons. And I think when I saw the human design chart for the very first time, I got that. It was like telescoped right into my brain. Wow, explode, right? That there's something magnificent here that gives me access to something much deeper about who I am. Now, I love astrology too, because it's going to tell me about the timing of things. It's going to tell me traits, my natural gifts and talents. But human design and the gene keys just take that to a deeper quality. So accessing things, for example, like you just showed in your chart, what is the difference between the white centers and the centers that have color? Well, one, the color is showing you where your authenticity lives, that part that you're actually broadcasting,
Mm.
where the white areas show you where you're gathering wisdom in this lifetime, and then show you how it is that you could become a tool to help other people gain more wisdom from the insights that you've gained through your own life. So it's it's an amazing system. That's all I can say, right? And when you marry that human design system and all of its different parts to astrology, you get AstroDesign. And in AstroDesign, we get the best of both worlds, both the timing and the sign issues, the where are the planets, and we get the design, right? The deeper part of who you are, the more DNA level you. I hope all that's making sense.
It does, because I know a little bit of the language that you speak. And
Hmm.
so for the people joining us that have no idea still what is human design, you can go to Janet's website or you can go to Jovian Archive to learn more. Both have free ebooks that explain this new modality, again, that just arrived on the planet in the 70s. But this is how
Actually,
I,
the 80s.
oh,
It's
the
newer
80s?
than it's newer than 80s, mid
Oh,
80s
oh,
at the harmonic convergence.
oh,
And
87 then, around
yeah, so right around that time, there was a big shift that occurred in our raising of our consciousness, becoming aware that we were so much more. I mean, we've already kind of known that, but there was a big shift that happened then.
Wow, I love
And
that.
yeah, and that is when he brought this system, human design, into being and or into our awareness. And it's just exploded since then, right?
Because
And
we were
so
ready
it's
for it.
still,
Yeah,
yeah, it's really literally only, in its what, 30, mid 30s to 40 years old.
it's that new. Well,
That's that new.
from a pedestrian view, and you can chuckle with me, but I look at it
Mhm.
as, did you know there's different cars? In other words, am I the Pinto? Was my body graph designed to be the VW van, or am I the Lamborghini? So for me in human design, learning, like, first of all, I'm not driving, my ego's not driving in the front seat. I got to go put myself in the back seat. But learning my body graph, like, I'm what they call a projector. And so I kind of
Mhm.
relate it to the kind of car. So projectors are the type that they have to, like, sit and wait for people to invite them in for a conversation. We are, I think, 23% of the population. And so if you find out that you are a projector through the human design analogy, um, we're here to guide. And we don't really have reliable energy sources. So I run out of gas unless you're around me, and then I use your gas. So I look at myself more as an electric vehicle that I have to plug in somewhere,
Plug you in.
plug me in. Otherwise, I
That's
stop,
perfect.
for only, like, I'm only good for 3 hours and then I stop. And so I'm learning that, again, what kind of car are you? Like, if you're a generator, you're like the ever ready bunny. You just go and go and go and go and go, and you're like high octane, right? But I'm a projector. I'm here to guide and just wait for invitations. And I have to then, because my inner authority is around emotional solar plexus. I have to wait where I'm not too happy and not too low. I have to wait till I'm kind of in neutral. So I'm learning that I drive my
Yep.
car best when I'm in neutral. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even driving. I'm like
Exactly.
electric vehicle and I'm in neutral. And I have to wait for other people, like,
Oh,
hi, I'm your Uber, and then they come in the car and then I'm like, oh, and then they say, oh, what do you know about X, Y, and Z? And then I'm like, oh, you really want to know? Oh, it feels good. Okay, blah, blah, blah.
yeah. Or you catch somebody's eye across the room, and there's this connection. And that's almost as good as an invitation that's literal, like, hey, Ursula, I invite you to come and talk to me. So then magic happens, right? So your magical pathway to being able to share your wisdom and your extraordinary gift of insight for people is when you have that invitation. To do otherwise would mean that you're kind of spinning your wheels, right? Wasting your energy. It's like driving your little car into the mud, and now you're wasting precious energy trying to get out of the mud.
Right.
And so the whole idea with human design is to align you with what is authentically you, so that you don't have to work so hard against the tide to get yourself seen, heard, valued, recognized in the
Exactly.
world, right?
Well, here's the thing.
So,
In the American culture, we are groomed to be, generators. Make it happen. Go do it. But when I saw that I'm a projector, one, I had to get over myself thinking, oh, I'm a teacher or I'm a guide, like no other people are better. So there was this whole self-effacing karmic lesson that I had to learn. Like, I'm just going to sit with it and play with this idea. If I am a guide, then what am I going to talk about? And I just have to follow what I love. And I've been loving all things metaphysical, especially now the galactic with Julia Balaz and her galactic astro charts. So I wanted to just share and do a shout out to everyone that, again, this is how human design can work. I've brought in the car analogy because, like Janet said, a lot of times I would think I had all this energy because I've worked in corporate and I've worked for as an artist and I think I can just keep painting. But, I run into peril when I don't give myself breaks or really honor this flow, or if I make decisions when I'm so like up or so angry and down. So it's learning about how I run as a car, a vehicle. And so I just want to give a shout out. If you want to know what kind of make and model you are, go see Janet's website.
I promise it won't be a car analogy that you get, but it will be specific to you. And it all runs on your birth date. So we'll need your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace. Human design is a little more forgiving than astrology is when it comes to birth time. So you do, we have to have a birth time, but if we don't have it exact, we can play with that and get it so it's refined. But if you know your birth time, then you've got to give us that. Then we get an exact chart for you.
That's essential.
And yeah, it is really essential for almost everything that we do. Soul realignment is the only thing right now that I'm doing that doesn't require a birth time, but it is helpful to have that because the other components, the galactic astrology, the human design astrology, run on all of those components. And here's the thing about human design or astro design, you're getting the best of both worlds, right? You're getting the best of astrology and you're getting the best of human design. And it gives us that widest lens view, right? You've seen, tunnel vision where, you're seeing things through a lens, like your phone camera, can only see so much. So what we're effectively doing by combining it with astrology is getting the widest lens that we can to see the truth of who you are. And then giving you that information, helping you to align with it. And you're right about something, Ursula. The world runs on generator energy. About 70% of the planet is generator or manifesting generator types. So the other 25% of you all are, or 70, so it'd be 30% of all of you are types that don't run like the generators. So unfortunately, you're conditioned to believe that you're here to act and decide things in the same way that everybody else around you seems to be doing it, and it doesn't work for you. So learning your type is so important because I mean, even the generator types have their own Achilles heels. They can run, but what are they doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Are you building the right thing? Like, are you, yeah.
Or like just spinning, jumping from one thing to another. And all of that can really undermine what you're here to do or, how you're here to be. So every type has its own issues and that you need to be aware of. And then as well, a strategy for how do I align myself with the correct things. So you'll
Right.
see words like type and a strategy. Those kind of are interlinked because every type has a strategy. Yours is wait to be invited. That's the projector one. Mine as a generator is to wait to respond. So notice that there's waiting involved. I don't know about you, but I'm not such a patient person. And I've had to learn patience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And more deliberation in how I go about my life. And that's thanks to human design, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I would have had that if I just knew that I was a Gemini with a Virgo moon and a Cancer rising.
Yeah.
There's nothing there that tells me you have to be patient so much.
Well, we did have one more gift to share with our audience on the playground, and that is, Janet, you've been doing these ebooks for
Mhm.
each of the months. Before we share what the ebook looks like, um, what would you say? I'm gonna let you tell everyone about your ebook, your monthly ebooks, because we do have a special date coming up that we want to make sure everyone calendars, but
Yeah. So the ebook is, generally speaking, a listing of the months, but day by day, or is the days, weeks by weeks, I think is how I really like to frame it for people, about the most important information that is happening for that week. So if we were to look at our progression through the year as a spiral of consciousness, right? In each ebook, I tap into what is the spiral of consciousness for that particular month. Now, I'm bringing that to you a la human design, but also astrology.
mhm.
So, as you read through the different days or the different weeks, you're going to see what are the most important things that you need to know for kind of a survival guide, if you will. I don't like that word, a thriving guide, let's call it that, for each month. And certain months have certain big things, like this month is a big thing. Yesterday, big day, right? With Uranus, Mars, and the North Node all in a conjunction. And how does that affect us, right? So, what are we learning about ourselves through that? How do I use that energy? How do I align myself, let's say, with that energy? And in some cases, I take it to astrology, right? When a planet is changing signs, really that's about an astrological move. So I'm going to teach you about what Mercury in Virgo means or whatever the changes that's occurring. Then we have the new and the full moons. And I love it because in human design, we get a better, clearer picture about what's happening with that moon and
Wow.
that sun, the sun as well, but the moon in particular, right? So the other thing that I really love about this is that when I talk about human design, it includes the earth. Now, astrology doesn't really ever speak about the earth. It's kind of there, but it's not spoken of. So when each week in human design comes up in the AstroDesign ebook, you're seeing it's sun and earth and then other planets that we're talking about because we live on the earth. Our feet are on the ground here. And Earth is going to provide us the energy for the evolution. If we want to move toward the sun, we have to handle the Earth, right? We have to handle whatever the Earth is at. So that's what I attempt to do through um, the writing of the Astro Design ebook.
Oh, I love that. Well, so what you've just shared, let's see if I can bring this in.
Mhm,
We have a human design, a body graph for each of us individually. And I use
mhm.
the analogy of a car. But in your ebooks for Astro Design, you're really looking at how is the collective being affected as these transits start happening. And when you pull up your own astro, your human design, you can see then if you're being impacted by this collective shifting with the sun and the earth. And so on that note,
Exactly.
let me share on my screen. Let's see, I'm going to now move to, so Janet, on your site, we have, here's your home page. Excuse me while I get here. At the
Mhm.
very bottom of Janet's website, living-astrology.com, here's how you can get to yours. Here's how you can get to your free human design chart. But let's see where that ebook is. Is that, here's the energy.
Just above.
Here's,
It's
here,
above.
it's
There,
right.
there it is.
So if anyone listening wants to just check this out, you know, to find out what the weather looks like from an astro design perspective, again, astrology plus human design, you can download your free copy. And so again, going back to
Yep.
Janet's website, but I'm going to go ahead and, given where we are with time, I'm just going to call out, if you download that ebook, one of the most critical dates for me, the fun, would be the full moon that's coming up on August 11th, 2022. And I think you called out
Mhm.
9:36 Eastern Daylight Time, but it's 6:36 for us PM on the Pacific Coast. But there's this quote
Correct.
that I wrote down that you said, "Are you ready to receive an epiphany?" And if you want to tune into
Mm.
this full moon energy on August 11th, again, 6:36 Pacific time in the PM, this is where your ebook helped me just go, wow, I know I can call things in, I know I can meditate, but when you've got a particular alignment, which is involving a T square, where there's
Hmm.
pressure to change, and we've got Taurus, the full moon, and where the relief is coming in through Scorpio. This is where we are weaving the astrology with the design aspect. I'm going to send that back over to you now, Janet, on this. Are you ready to receive an epiphany? And you found this out by looking at both the astrology and the human design for the collective.
Well, yeah, in general terms, right? Because a full moon is always a time of revelation or completion. And in some cases, when we have this very strident energy, it can kind of smack into us. We have this rapid aha, oh my God, the light bulb is on, right? The full moon gives us access to sometimes the clearer picture of our intuition, of what's been going on within us, and all the pieces come together and whew, there it is, right? And interesting because this is a Leo time of year, so the full moon herself will be in the sign of Aquarius, a sign that is ruled by the planet Uranus. And Uranus is a planet of epiphany, right? It brings awakening, sometimes brings shock and awe. It depends, on how that's impacting your own personal chart and your own personal human design. But the power is of something arising from deep within you during that period of time that is like the light bulb. It's like, aha, now I have the answer. Now I have the solution. Now I know what to do. Now I know what's been going on. So being attuned to that, knowing it's coming,
Yeah.
right? Then we can start to attune ourselves to, I want my aha. I want to know more about um, what's going on in the Aquarius part of my own chart. For me, Aquarius sits on the eighth house. So what's transforming uh, in my chart? I
Yeah.
want to know what's transforming in my life, let's say. And I had to think about it. I had to think about where is Aquarius in my
Oops,
chart?
it happens. It happens.
Right. Rising Cancer, descendant going to be Capricorn. So Aquarius is
Oh, that's
on the
funny.
eighth house. So I was thinking for a minute, okay, wait, which chart am I talking about? So that's the key for our full moon this month is that there's this very powerful potential for some light bulb to come on. And it could be something that, you've had a problem with for a long time. It could be something new that just like sparks, right? It's like
Right.
spark time. And, how would you know that? I mean, you might still have the epiphany, right? You don't have to know it's coming to have the epiphany, but it's so nice to know that I can be on the lookout for
Yeah.
something new coming in or something, brilliant shining up out of my darkness
It's like
coming up.
we know December 25th is when Santa comes. So the kids, we anticipate Christmas, we prepare for Christmas, and then Christmas comes. And so this idea of August 11th and the full moon energy. Now, Pam Gregory, astrologer, I track her quite a bit, and she always says, and I'd love to hear how you feel about this, that it's not necessarily a pinpoint of time. There's a little bit of a window, so it's not so well. August 11th came and went, and I didn't get my epiphany, and I'm waiting for it under the tree. But it's much more about a window of potentiality. But this way, at
Yes.
least you're saying, okay, I'm expecting it. And now what is it? Like, how do I hold space? It's so hard to sit your butt down and just tune in and wait for it. We were talking about how hard it is to wait, but how hard is it to just meditate? Just silence.
And you're absolutely right that no transit, even the Uranus Mars North Node conjunction that occurred yesterday, it we've been feeling it for days, right? And we're still feeling its effects. I always think of the saying, right? When we used to get colds, right? That it was 3 days coming, 3 days there, 3 days going, right? So you kind of had like a 9-day window of, moving through this virus of a cold. Well, transits are sort of like that, only depending on what the planets are involved, the coming part can be as much as a week. Sometimes if it's like a Pluto transit, it could be weeks ahead of time. You're feeling this energy coming up because the planet moves relatively slowly.
Yeah.
So you feel it coming. And often, things can happen even in that approach, right? In that time. And then you've got the day of or the days of that transit that's exact. And then the days it's waning. And any one of those days or or it could be the accumulation of those days can bring about whatever it is that is happening for you personally in your life. And then add to that in your own personal chart, you might have planets that are getting hit by the moon or the sun or something that's in transit. And that can change fundamentally the time scale and what's happening. If that makes sense to you.
Your mind is amazing. So thank you for journeying with us. And let me just see if I can summarize. Today we talked about AstroDesign. So you've met Janet, now you're meeting her a second time on the playground, but you can see her mind has the ability to process quite a few different modalities to help engage us with who we are, why we're here, and where we're going. And so we did AstroDesign. We talked a little bit about human design, pointing to Janet's website and also Jovian Archive. And then lastly, this idea of the full moon on August 11th, perfect time. If even you can just set the intention. I hold from my heart this intention to receive my particular epiphany to support the greater good, or whatever you want to say. But I'm still going to ask you again, please come back and share with us more about this other modality of soul alignment, because I know nothing and I love learning from you. So whenever the right timing is, we're just going to keep learning from you, Janet. And I just appreciate, because you're sharing tools that help us all lighten up. So
Right. Get aligned with yourself.
Aligned with yourself. So thank you. And we'll see everybody next time on the Ascension Playground. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Ursula. Bye-bye.
Bye.